Hello everybody and welcome to the Lowe's Motor Speedway for the 2005 UAW GM Quality 500 and the 31st race for 2005 NR2003 season, the second race in the round of 12 in the chase for the cup. Jimmie Johnson starts on pole position alongside front row Joe Nemechek. As we get ready to get underway, we are green and underway here at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Who is going to bring home the victory in this second race of the round of 12 and find themselves possibly into the round of 8? Contact already. Jimmie Johnson almost got turned by Kurt Busch. What a save into turn 1. That was a near disastrous start for probably the entire field. As the 48 went around, everybody's getting collected in that one. Luckily, Jimmie Johnson able to save that car, keeps the lead somehow, drives away from Kurt Busch, and Jimmie Johnson in the Lowe's Chevrolet leads the opening lap here at Lowe's Motor Speedway. And now we look through the rest of the field. A little bit of three wide back here. Brian Vickers, Kyle Busch, Bobby Labonte cut a little bit close, but they get all sorted out throughout the back as Jimmie Johnson continues to lead this race. Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart doing battle for second behind him as Johnson driving away, trying to get what would surprisingly be still looking for that first win here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, even though he's had so much speed in a lot of his race cars. It hasn't worked out. Meanwhile, Mark Martin, Ryan Newman battling side by side for position at the back end of the top 10. As Johnson leads with the caution lights are on. Caution, a huge crash into turn 3. Rusty Wallace is involved. Big playoff implications for the two of Rusty Wallace in his final season of Cup Series competition. Gets into Scott Riggs, gets turned hard to the inside wall by Dale Jarrett, slides up the track into the oncoming Stuart Kirby. Gets drilled by Sterling Marlin and Robbie Gordon, and then Scott Riggs gets himself involved again, running into Robbie Gordon with some late ARCA braking right there. But the two of Rusty Wallace destroyed out of this race within the first 5 laps. And that will be detrimental. I mean, Rusty Wallace came in a really good spot, 30 points above the cut line, but now a disastrous start to this race here might put him right on that bubble going to the elimination race next episode at Talladega. As Jimmie Johnson is at the front of the field leading this pack, and once again on the restart, Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch still behind him, side by side for second, followed by Biffle and Nemechek. The 48 off to a hot start here at Charlotte. Of course, Jimmie Johnson trying to find his way to victory for the 4th time this season. Tony Stewart trying to get back-to-back after his dominating performance a week ago in Kansas, trying to make it happen once again here in Charlotte as he tries to chase down the 48 of Jimmie Johnson, narrowly holding off the 97 of Kurt Busch behind him as they go off into turn 1. Kurt Busch is now taking the lead away from Stewart. Jimmie Johnson, a little bit of contact there. The 16 of Greg Biffle almost took out Jimmie Johnson. Luckily, the 48 and 16 able to hang on to it and avoid disasters. Kurt Busch driving away with the race lead 13 laps in, and now here comes the 48 once again. On lap 32, 20 laps later, Jimmie Johnson making a move for the race lead here in Charlotte. Can he take it away from Kurt Busch? As into turn 1, Johnson on the inside, but Kurt with a great run on the outside lane for Kurt Busch. Him and Jimmie Johnson, they're going to be side by side for the lead down the back straightaway. A great battle for the race lead as these two drivers continue to duke it out the front of the field. Johnson and Kurt Busch, two of the elite this season, right up there in that category. Tony Stewart as championship favorites. Kurt Busch now swinging it back, crossover on Jimmie Johnson out of turn 4 on lap 36, and Kurt Busch back to the point. He will get back by Jimmie Johnson. These two continuing to put on a show at the front of the field. Johnson now with a crossover a few laps later on lap 39. So now here comes Jimmie Johnson trying to take the lead back once again from Kurt Busch as Greg Biffle looks on in third. Jimmie this time easily going to clear Kurt Busch out of 2, and Johnson back to the point, but then Kurt Busch can hit him with a crossover down the very same back straightaway the following lap. And just like that, the 97 Sharpie Ford back to the front. Now Kurt Busch leading the way here in a very competitive race here at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Now Jimmie Johnson with a crossover on lap 47. Just like that, Jimmie's right back in the game, and now he'll make the pass on the inside lane into turn 3 once again. And just like that, Jimmie Johnson back out front, leading the way here on lap 48 at Charlotte. And now later, trouble. Same lap, Elliott Sadler turns Joe Nemechek into the wall, wrecking himself in the process. Then 38 gets hit by Jeff Green in qualify, a big crash. Ends up collecting Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, and Denny Hamlin. And a huge crash just right there is going to knock Elliott Sadler out of this race and put him in a near basically must-win scenario next week at Talladega if he wants to find his way into the round of 8 and keep his playoff hopes alive. Also joining him out of the race, you got a long list of cars. Travis Quaffle, Mark Martin, who is having a really good top 10 run going. Denny Hamlin, who just came out with big trouble on the restart already. Johnny Sauter has crashed with Matt Kenseth and Jeremy Mayfield. Dale Jarrett also involved into turn 1 and 2. Right off the bat on the restart, Mayfield, the playoff driver, could not afford that, but Kenseth and Sauter are both destroyed, and now they are done for the night. As we continue on, meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson's leading at the front of the field, and I'll continue telling you about the guys who are out of the race from that wreck a couple of cautions ago as we get back underway with Tony Stewart now leading over Jimmy Johnson. You see, like I said, Quaffle's out, Mark Martin's out. Denny Hamlin coming off a second-place finish in Kansas, crashes out after having a solid top 15 run going here in Charlotte. Carl Edwards' bad luck continues. Joe Nemechek out as well. And, of course, now you see Johnny Sauter added to that list in 31st. Matt Kenseth is well out of this race, who's just had a horrible luck since starting the playoffs. Meanwhile, Johnson and Stewart side by side for the race lead here on the restart. And Tony Stewart going to hold the race lead, but the caution is out on the racetrack as Stewart will lead Johnson back to the line. Stewart, your leader, but there's trouble as slow-mo replay here. Bobby Hamilton Jr., Jeff Green, and David Stremme with a big crash into turn 1, I believe. And look at that. Stremme lands on top of Jeff Green. Both cars were on their side. Then Jeff Green lands on his lid, slides down to the apron with a massive crash into turn 1 here at Charlotte. A wild turn of events sees Jeff Green upside down, Stremme on his side, and a huge crash. Going to take out both the 39 and 43 from this race. And the chaos continues here at Lowe's Motor Speedway as Tony Stewart leads at the caution flag and will restart alongside Jimmy Johnson as we get back underway here on lap 67. Now Jimmy Johnson with the advantage over Tony Stewart, and he will be clear for the race lead going into turn 1 on the restart there. Of course, yeah, you see the guys out. There you got Kenseth, Stremme, Jeff Green. Not sure if Jeremy Mayfield, the 19th Jeremy Mayfield also out of this race from that crash. So Mayfield is out in 29th, which is huge implications. Mayfield came in right on that cut line. So now Mayfield, Sadler, and Rusty Wallace, the 3 playoff drivers, out with their hopes in jeopardy going to Talladega. As Stewart and Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart now with a crossover move for the race lead into turn 1. Can Tony Stewart make it happen and take the lead back from Jimmy Johnson here in Charlotte? And yes, he will. Tony Stewart with a brilliant pass to the inside takes the lead right back from Jimmy Johnson. Now the Home Depot Chevy currently winning the battle of the home improvement stores versus the Lowe's machine here at Charlotte, with Stewart now leading the way, Kurt Busch running second, Johnson running third. And now Jimmy takes the lead back on the lap 72, but the 97 of Kurt Busch, who's been with him all night long, is going to be right there once again. Kurt Busch now dives to the inside into turn 3, trying to take the lead back here at Charlotte. Jimmy able to hold on the outside lane, and Johnson retains the lead from a charging Kurt Busch. And on the lap 91, Johnson now trying to lap Kevin Harvick for the second time, who's struggling with just 3 to go here in stage 1. It's a 3-car battle between Johnson, Kurt Busch, and Casey Mears has been quiet. Is now seated up in the third, but here comes Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch going for the lead with just 2 to go in stage 1. The playoff point and 10 stage points that come to the stage win, so valuable. The 97 and the 48 racing intensely for this lead. They know it's on the line, but how about the 41? The target dodge of Casey Mears gets a nose underneath Kurt Busch going into 3. And here comes Casey Mears. Now Biffle has joined the fray in this battle for the stage win, but it is Casey Mears who is clear of everybody. With the last lap of stage 1 now underway, Harvick still holding everybody up. He cost Jimmy Johnson. Now will he cost Casey Mears? Not quite. Mears able to force him up high. Johnson moves Biffle out of the lane, but now it is Casey Mears with breathing room behind him down the backstretch for the final time in the opening stage, looking for his first career stage win. And that is what is about to happen. Casey Mears wins stage 1 here in Charlotte. Jimmy Johnson second, Kurt Busch third, Greg Biffle fourth, Tony Stewart fifth, Newman sixth, Ricky Rudd 7th, Vickers, Gordon 8th and 9th, and Jeff Burton earns the last stage points. How about that? Casey Mears' first stage win of his career and of the season, of course, comes here at Charlotte, beating Jimmy Johnson with the help of Kevin Harvick. And as we get back underway in stage 2 on lap 99, is Biffle and Casey Mears doing battle for the race lead on the restart. Greg Biffle with a great move to the inside. How about the 16 of Greg Biffle to the lead here in Charlotte, but look who's in third. That's Kevin LePage in the 66, having a legacy run tonight, running in third place here at Charlotte. That's not going to last long. He's already under fire from Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch. But here comes Casey Mears with a crossover on Greg Biffle for the race lead. This battle continues into turn one. Biffle on the top, Mears on the bottom. Who is it going to be? It's Casey Mears taking the race lead from Biffle on the inside lane. And now Jimmy Johnson already charging in the second. Now they're 3 wide for fourth place. Kurt Busch, Vickers, and LePage. Contact, and there goes Vickers into the wall. He goes crashing with LePage. The one thing Vickers could not afford to happen as he gets drilled by David Rudiman. Bobby Hamilton comes piling in hard at the end. And 3 wide, Kurt Busch, one of the dominant cars of the night, gets involved in a crash here, taking out fellow contender Brian Vickers, who's a fellow playoff driver, as well as Kevin LePage, who is having a career day. And then Vickers just slides down in the path of David Rudiman, making his debut for Michael Waltrip Racing. He gets destroyed. Bobby Hamilton Jr. ARCA brakes at the end, piling in a hellacious crash into turn 3. Here's Charlotte Motor Speedway, certainly going to change this race. Now with Brian Vickers, one of the best cars, destroyed, and Kurt Busch damaged, who was arguably the best in the field, alongside Jimmy Johnson. Oh, and now Kyle Busch is spinning under yellow. Kyle Busch just got spun by Bobby Labonte under yellow, but manages to save it. So a wild turn of events here in Charlotte as we get back underway. Ricky Rudd going to lead that lap on the outside lane alongside Jimmy Johnson, fighting for the race lead here on lap 105. Early in the second stage of racing, in a chaotic race so far here at Charlotte. Only 21 cars in the race. Of course, Vickers and LePage knocked out of the race, as well as David Rudiman from that last crash. Jimmy Johnson now clear for the race lead. He gets by Ricky Rudd. How about Jeff Gordon driving the second? The 24 is having a much needed, just quiet day, not getting involved in any incidents, keeping himself in contention. And the spot to earn some good points, put himself in a good spot to advance to the round of 8. Now Jimmy Johnson comes down pit road here from the lead on lap 158. He was dominating up to this point. The 48 comes in for his pit stop, cycles the lead out to Casey Mears. And the 41, who of course took care of business and got the stage 1 victory. And now Casey Kane with a wild angle coming down the pit lane there. Makes it in for his pit stop, but still Casey Mears leading the race the following lap. Mears now in for his scheduled green flag pit stop here late in stage 2. They'll cycle the lead out to Kurt Busch in the 97, who makes his way down the front straightaway. Going to turn on the caution. There's the pace car. The caution is out on the racetrack. There's smoke up ahead. Big trouble. It's Dale Jr., the defending champion. Earnhardt Jr. wrecked by Tony Stewart into turn 1. Brings out the caution. And Jr., who's just trying to make laps, make it to the end, now destroyed. And Jr. will likely also have to pull off a Herculean effort at Talladega to advance to the round of 8. But we've seen him do it before. He can certainly do it again. And now we get back underway on the restart. Currently, Casey Mears, Kurt Busch, Dave Blaney, only 3 cars on the lead lap. All these guys in front of them are trying to race their way back on the lead lap. There goes Newman. The 12 just got dumped by Kyle Petty in turn 2. And that's going to bring out the caution as Kyle Petty completely junks Ryan Newman, championship contender. Caution is out, and now at this point, all the guys who are trying to get back in the lead lap have to beat Casey Mears. So right now, it is only Greg Biffle and Jimmy Johnson. They have to stay ahead of the 41, and they're back in the game and still in contention for the victory. And Johnson and Biffle will both beat Mears back to the line, so they will stay on the lead lap. But Mears leads after a wild turn of events here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now here comes Jimmy Johnson on the outside lane in turn 2 on lap 183. About 25 to go in the stage. Jimmy Johnson takes the lead away from Casey Mears on the outside lane. That 48 is hooked up. Jimmy Johnson to the point here in Charlotte. As he leads over Casey Mears. And now here comes Casey Mears with a crossover on Jimmy Johnson with just 3 to go in the stage. Is Casey Mears going to do it again? Is he going to steal a stage win from the hands of Jimmy Johnson for the second consecutive time this race? As here he is, Casey Mears takes the lead away. 2 to go in stage 2. Now last lap of stage 2. The question is, what's going to happen when Mears catches Casey Kane? Jimmy Johnson throws it to the inside. His last gasp there to try to take the lead away. He is just going to run out of time, and he has done it again. Casey Mears wins stage 2 and sweeps the stages here in Charlotte. Johnson second, Kurt Busch third, Biffle 4th. Dave Blaney runs out top 5 and 5th. Stewart a lap down in 6th, as well as Kyle Busch, who you see now on your screen coming across to 7th, followed by Ryan Newman in 8th and Jeff Gordon in 9th, and Ricky Rudder's the last stage point, 2 laps down. So out of that, Casey Mears sweeps the stages here in Charlotte in dramatic fashion. As we get back underway on the restart, we got a second line just catching up to about the mid portion of the field is Casey Mears and Greg Biffle once again on the front row. Kurt Busch, Jimmy Johnson behind them, who have been arguably the 2 best cars, but when it counts, Casey Mears has been the one leading the charge at the front of the pack, but now it is the 16 of Greg Biffle for Roush Racing, taking the lead away from Casey Mears as Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson easily follow through as well in the 2nd and 3rd with a big run of momentum here through turns 3 and 4. Biffle trying to hold the lead, but here comes Kurt Busch. He's got a big push from Jimmy Johnson into turn 1, but a massive check up there from the 97. Stacks up the whole line, and Greg Biffle will hold the lead here at Lowe's Motor Speedway with Casey Mears hot on his tail in 2nd. And now Mears going to go to the inside lane. Mears with a crossover, trying to take the lead back once again here at Lowe's Motor Speedway as the caution has come out. Trouble. Stewart maybe the 22 is Scott Wimmer involved. A big wreck into turn 1. Dave Blaney, Dale Jarrett, and Scott Wimmer go crashing hard. Going to knock out the 07, who was running in 5th. Had a top 5 pretty much in the bag. Dave Blaney now wrecks out of this race with Scott Wimmer and Dale Jarrett as Greg Biffle narrowly beats Casey Mears to the line in a drag race for the lead. And now it's ensuing restart lap 220, 1:15 to go. Here comes Jimmy Johnson to the inside lane. The 48 swinging to the inside to try to get back around Greg Biffle to take the lead away. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Jimmy Johnson back to the point here at Charlotte. He takes the lead away from Greg Biffle. He has been dominant tonight, the 48, but so has the 97 of Kurt Busch, who's right back to his inside here on lap 241. 94 to go. Kurt Busch now gets by Jimmy Johnson and takes the lead back as they barely scoop by the lap car of Scott Wimmer. So Kurt Busch leading. Now here comes Jimmy Johnson shortly after. A few laps later, the 48 back to the inside. Now Jimmy Johnson trying to take the lead back. It is now looks like a 3-horse race between Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, and Greg Biffle. Tony Stewart's there, yes, but he's currently 2 laps down in 8th position right now after some poor strategy decisions, as well as getting trapped out by the caution when Casey Mears had the lead earlier in the race. So 3 wide back there. Kurt Busch had the lift, but Jimmy Johnson takes the lead here at Lowe's Motor Speedway with 94 laps to go. Now Jimmy's still holding the lead over the 97 of Kurt Busch going into turn 2 here with about 63 to go, and the 48 dives to the bottom. Jimmy Johnson is coming down the pit lane for what should be the final stop of the race here with 63 to go. Jimmy Johnson is in from the lead. Of course, that'll give it over to Kurt Busch, who the following lap Kurt Busch is in, not trying to let Jimmy Johnson beat him on the short pitting strategy. Kurt is in, Biffle follows, so does Stewart, and that should leave the 41 of Casey Mears, and it does. The race lead here with just 61 laps remaining. Casey Mears leading here at Charlotte. Now he comes in the following lap. So coming to 60 to go, Mears makes his final pit stop. And who will cycle out to the race lead? We see Jimmy Johnson now coming out of the pit lane. The question is, where will he cycle in relation to Kurt Busch and Greg Biffle, who pitted the lap after him? So now the 48 going on the race. Johnson tries to cycle his way back out into the race lead and in position to win this race and lock himself into the round of 8 with his 4th win of the season. So now Johnson can make his way to turn 2, but no, he's going to get beat big time on the pit cycle. Greg Biffle and Kurt Busch absolutely cooked Jimmy Johnson, and it is now Kurt Busch who will be the leader on this cycle. Biffle will be 2nd, Johnson 3rd out of the guys that have pitted. Kurt Busch now in a great position to win this race, as he is now officially going to be scored as the leader with under 60 to go here in Charlotte. Kurt Busch looking for win number 3 of the year and an automatic bid to the round of 8, so he can rest easy going into Talladega. But now Jimmy Johnson has come down pit road with 32 to go. A shocking decision by the 48, deciding to split this final run in 2 with 2 stops. Kurt Busch does the same. With 25 to go, Kurt Busch comes in. So your 2 leaders, the dominant cars of the night, Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson, both come in, and that will leave Greg Biffle the race lead with 25 to go. The question is, will he pit? And the answer is probably not. As 2 to go, the white flag this time by Greg Biffle is still leading. He and Casey Mears have stayed out the whole way, playing the fuel strategy game. White flag in the air. Final lap here at Lowe's Motor Speedway for Greg Biffle, who is trying to end his season on a positive note after a extremely disappointing first round exit in the playoffs. Biffle leading here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, about to win his 3rd race of the season on strategy. As through 3 and 4 for the final time, Roush Racing hit the jackpot for strategy out of turn 4. Greg Biffle is gonna steal one in Charlotte. He wins the UAW 500. You saw Kurt Busch there, ends up in 3rd place. Casey Mears 2nd. Jimmy Johnson 4th. Ryan Newman rounds out the top 5. Then Jeff Gordon 6th. Kyle Busch 7th. Kyle Petty 8th. Ricky Rudd 9th. And here comes Tony Stewart to finish in the 10th position after a dominant victory last time out in Kansas. So how about that? Greg Biffle gets his 3rd win of the year, the 5th of his young career so far, and gets it done here at Lowe's Motor Speedway, stealing it from Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson, who were definitely the best cars all night long. As you see the final race results there on the left side of your screen, pause if you would like to explore how your favorite driver finished, and in a few short moments you'll see the updated playoff grid going into Elimination Sunday at Talladega. So now here's your updated playoff grid. Of course, Tony Stewart knows his fate. He's already locked in. He got the job done at Kansas. Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, and Brian Vickers are all but locked in. As long as they just don't have horribly disastrous turn of events at Talladega, they are basically safe to the round of 8, so I wouldn't be sweating too much if I was the 48, the 97, or the 25. Jeff Gordon's looking really good at plus 36. Even Ryan Newman at plus 24 and Kyle Busch at plus 21 have solid cushions. But Rusty Wallace falls all the way to the playoff cut line, only 12 points above Kevin Harvick. Jeremy Mayfield sits out by 25, Dale Jr. by 29, and Elliott Sadler in must-win territory at 45 points below the cut line going into Talladega. The elimination race, the round of 12 next time out. Should be a fun one. And before we end this episode, as always, I want to give a shout out to my channel members. So thank you very much to Brenda Breen and Jeremy Isley. I really appreciate your guys' support. It means a lot to me and helps me and this channel continue to grow and do great things on our road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you have not subscribed and you're watching this video, please do subscribe. I really appreciate it. It only takes 2 seconds. It's not that hard. If you want to become a channel member, link is in the description down below. So until the next episode, I hope you all have a good one.